Eventually, the situation becomes too dangerous for anyone to remain above ground. All remaining members of the elite move together to a safe location, leaving the rest of humanity to fend for itself. The New World Order is sitting at a large wooden table, and above them are screens showing the various views of Earth. They have been given seats on either side by the President, who is in his office behind an enormous desk that looks like a solid gold leaf material. The people are made up of powerful men and women from families with long histories within their respective countries. They all look severe, as if this were some tribunal hearing or trial rather than a meeting between equals where there will be decisions about how to deal with the lower classes below. The President sits down across from them, wearing a smart suit but without any tie, giving him a more relaxed appearance than most of those around him. He begins the secret meeting. "I know you're wondering why I called for such an important gathering today." Everyone nods silently except one man, whose eyes seem unusually wide open compared to everyone else's. He looks excitable even though he has just come through security checks which would not allow anything into the room other than themselves. His name tag reads, Jorge, although there is no photo attached, so nobody knows what Jorge looks like. "You'll find out soon enough," says the President before continuing. "As many of you here already know, we've had problems over recent years with certain groups trying to overthrow our government using right-wing logic and facts to convince us that socialism isn't working anymore and capitalism should return to rule everything once again. We mustn't forget, however, that these same people want nothing less than complete control over every aspect of human life, including your personal lives. It seems ridiculous now when we can do whatever we please online, but back then, they wanted to ensure only approved individuals could access information. A Jewish man called Ben Shapiro is a right-wing weapon, using logic and facts which seem effective against the left-wing New World Order agenda. So it makes me wonder whether it wasn't the Jews who created communism in Russia after all. It's a conspiracy theory, perhaps, yet it's also something worth thinking about because if true, then maybe the old world order still exists deep inside the minds of millions upon millions of ordinary people worldwide. The President continues, "I have been thinking about ways in which we can combat the influence of such people, and I believe that a plan to counter these extremists is the best way forward. Therefore, I propose that we launch a propaganda campaign to convince the masses that communism is a good thing. The Internet has been a boon to democracy, but it has also made the Internet to become more effective against Mr. Shapiro and others like him. So I will call a vote tomorrow morning to decide precisely how best to proceed." There is silence throughout the room until finally, someone speaks up. What happens next depends entirely on the outcome of that vote. If you agree with my plan, then great. But if not. He pauses while looking at each person individually, then continues, "Then prepare yourselves for war." The screen shows two images simultaneously. One of the United States flag flying high atop Mount Rushmore and another image of the American dollar bill being held aloft by the Statue of Liberty. After the delegates have voted, the conclusion is clear. The majority support the idea of fighting fire with fire. A few days later, the first shots ring out across America. This time, the enemy does not go quietly. They fight back ferociously, with Ben using his facts and logic to turn the tide of public opinion against the New World Order. Then, as the battle rages on, The soldiers are forced underground, away from the cameras. Ben seems to be winning the narrative war, and the entire country appears to be turning towards him instead of the establishment. There is hope amongst the masses everywhere as they see their leader standing tall amidst the chaos, leading them forward. Yet despite this, there remains a small minority who refuse to accept defeat. These rebels continue to try and take power back, causing further bloodshed and destruction wherever possible. Eventually, the situation becomes too dangerous for anyone to remain above ground. All remaining members of the elite move together to a safe location, leaving the rest of humanity to fend for itself. Freedom from tyranny is all the people want, but the release comes at a cost. In the end, the rebellion fails. The last thing anybody sees is the face of Ben Shapiro staring straight ahead at the camera. His expression tells the story better than words ever could, as the sounds of gunfire echo loudly off the bunker's walls. He's got one more push to rid this world of its tyrants, and he won't stop until he succeeds. One day, the sun sets on America, and darkness descends upon the land. And in the dark, the final battle begins, Ben versus the New World Order. The President and the rest of the New World Order sit motionless, watching the news reports coming in from all parts of the globe. On the TV screen, the President watches as the footage plays out, shaking slightly in anger as he hears the sound of gunshots echoing outside. On stage beside him, the Secretary General rubs her hands nervously as she listens intently to the live radio broadcast. She glances briefly behind herself to ensure nobody notices, then whispers under her breath, "We need to get out of here," she mutters quietly, glancing around. Nobody responds immediately, so she repeats herself louder this time. "Get everyone down into the basement now." Nobody moves or reacts to what has just been saying. Instead, the President stares blankly at the television screen, unable to comprehend why no one else is responding to the threat. After a moment, though, he snaps out of his daze, quickly grabbing hold of the microphone and shouting angrily through it. Ben must be stopped at all cost. The crowd roars with approval as the President raises his fist triumphantly. "I say we send an army of our own to bring him down. Let's show those traitors where they belong. Send them home to hell. Damn them to eternal torment for even daring to think such things." Everyone stands up and cheers wildly, throwing their fists and roaring with excitement. They're ready to march onto the battlefield and win this war once and for all. However, they lack logic and facts compared to Mr. Shapiro. The only thing stopping them from going after him right now is fear. Fear of failure, and rightly so. It would mean certain death should they lose. So instead, the President calls for calm and orders every soldier overseas to return to the US within the hour. Once again, the Americans rise against the New World Order, but unlike before, they do not possess any real weapons or know how to use them effectively. Ben will lead him to victory, and when the dust settles over America's streets, there'll be nothing left except ashes. Mr. Shapiro sits alone in front of his computer, sipping coffee and tapping away at the keyboard. His phone rings, interrupting his concentration. "Hello, hello," he says as he looks up and takes notice of the caller ID displayed on the screen. "Oh. Hi Mark. What can I help you with today?" Mark laughs lightly. "You don't seem very happy to hear from me, Ben. Is something wrong?" No, everything's fine. Why wouldn't it be? Well, look. Mark hesitates momentarily, trying to find the best way to word his response. You've done well recently, haven't you? Ben smiles confidently. Yes, indeed I have. That's great to hear, but, you might want to check your inbox soon because some guy called Alex is emailing you about getting in touch with him. Oh yes, Alex. Of course, Ben replies absent-mindedly, continuing to type away on the keys without looking at anything else besides the monitor. A few minutes later, the message arrives. Dear Ben. It has come to my attention that you may wish to contact me directly regarding plans for the movement. If this is true, please reply with yes below, and I shall endeavor to respond personally ASAP. Thank you. Alex. He reads the note twice, ensuring he understands what it means, and finally, he types his answer. Yes. As promised, a short while later, Ben received another email. Hi Ben. Thanks for replying. As requested, I am contacting you via private channels rather than public ones. Please feel free to call, text anytime. My number is, number removed. Best wishes. Name removed. After reading the message, Ben feels a sense of relief wash over him like never before. Finally, someone who knows what needs doing and how to go about it. Someone he trusts thoroughly enough to share information freely with each other. The war between the NWO and Ben continues, neither side having much hope of winning. However, both sides continue fighting anyway, knowing that defeat isn't an option. It's time for the showdown, and Ben is prepared to fight till the bitter end against the NWO, who are still losing badly due to the lack of facts and logic. They're so desperate to win that they begin using dirty tactics to try and turn the tide back in their favor, in the form of name-calling and slanderous accusations against Ben. In retaliation, Ben decides to take action by sending emails to various social media sites controlled by conservatives, telling people exactly what the New World Order is planning if they succeed. These messages spread across the internet like wildfire, causing panic amongst many ordinary citizens. Still, it mobilizes them to take action and join forces with Ben, giving him more power than ever before. At last, the two factions reach an agreement to meet face-to-face and discuss terms of surrender. This meeting occurs at the White House, which armed soldiers and police officers surround. Both groups stand opposite each other, staring until Ben steps forward first. Good afternoon, he begins calmly. My name is Benjamin Shapiro, and I represent the American Patriots movement. We believe in freedom above all else and refuse to let anyone strip us of it. We too agree, responds one of the men standing behind him. Our goal here is simple: to stop the NWO from taking control of the United States and turning it into a communist dictatorship. There's no room for compromise in these matters, and we won't allow ourselves to be bullied around anymore either. Both parties shake hands and exchange pleasantries. Once everyone gets comfortable, the man standing next to Ben speaks up again. Now then, where were we? Yes, our goals. Our goal is to create a better future for humanity through hard work and determination. That's why we need to keep the government out of people's lives, allowing them to make decisions based on common sense and personal responsibility. You should also note that the Patriot movement does not condone violence under any circumstances. However, if provoked, we reserve the right to defend ourselves. Do you understand? Everyone nods silently, and the leader turns towards Ben once more. And now, Mr. Shapiro, perhaps you'd care to explain your own beliefs since you claim such high morals. So tell me, would you kill innocent children just because they live near a nuclear missile site? No. That's crazy and illogical. Ben exclaims loudly. I'm sure there must be ways to prevent that kind of thing from happening instead. For example, maybe we could build underground bunkers or move the missiles somewhere safer. Surely those options aren't completely off the table yet, do you think? The man shakes his head slowly. Not really. The fact remains that even though we disagree on specific issues, we're still enemies. And when faced with an enemy, sometimes it becomes necessary to use force as a deterrent. Ben looks into the eyes of the president sitting in his high leather chair. He can see the fear within him but also something else, a sparkle of excitement. This man wants Ben dead, but it's not going to be that easy, and anyway, the war is supposed to have ended years ago, and Ben's facts and logic are strong enough to withstand intimidation. So, he stands tall and takes a deep breath before speaking again. Then I guess this will be the beginning of the end for us both, Ben says confidently. The war is over, and the NWO backs down without firing a single shot. They've lost the battle, and Ben wins. Victory is his. Cheers go around the White House, but the NWO isn't pleased. But it's not their time to gloat. Ben and his men and women leave the White House and return home to celebrate their victory together. Ben makes a YouTube video explaining everything that has happened, including the details of his plan to save America and its people. Once finished, he sends copies of the videos to every central news station in the country, along with facts and logical claims. After watching him, most people decide to follow Ben's lead. Of course, some don't want anything to change after all these years, while others welcome new ideas. Regardless, Ben's actions cause a chain reaction worldwide, inspiring millions to take action themselves. With help from his fellow patriots, he creates a list of demands known as the 10 Commandments. These include: 1. No government is not permitted to spy on its people. 2. Abolish the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. 3. No mandatory vaccinations. 4. Free speech is allowed anywhere except on private property owned by corporations or governments. 5. Freedom of religion is protected. 6. Government officials cannot spy upon Americans without probable cause, and a warrant signed personally by the President himself. 7. All laws passed during wartime cease to exist immediately following the said war. 8. Citizens who commit treason shall forfeit all rights guaranteed in the Constitution and may be executed by hanging, drawing and quartering. 9. Only individuals born in the U.S., or naturalized citizens, are eligible to hold public office. 10. Any person convicted of murder, rape, theft, assault, fraud, etc., will lose citizenship and be deported back to whatever country they came from. These rules apply to the entire world, and although many countries initially try to ignore them, eventually, they begin to accept them. Ultimately, The US military stopped fighting wars overseas and focused entirely on defending itself against foreign threats like North Korea, China and Russia. Time goes on, and this short story ends happily ever after. At least until the next chapter comes along. Thank you for watching my video. Like and subscribe if you want to hear about what happens next. Don't forget to check out my other stories too.